Yep. Good morning. Good morning. Hope everybody can hear me here. How are you doing today? Just checking things out, making some back office changes a little bit, and as well as just trying to get it all connected, trying to make sure that things are right, things are happening, things are in order. Hold on, y'all. We're just trying to make sure we're straight in these COVID days. How you doing today? Everybody good? Everybody COVID safe, I suppose. Yeah, yep. And me too. God is good. It's a lot of stress on our heads here. We were reading this morning um, about mental health in our communities because of, all this racist strife, the elections, economic disparities, just all kinds of things going on in our world. And, it's just a difficult way for us to go. But we hope that you're doing okay. Today, we need peace. That's what I'm saying. I mean, we don't hear too much about peace these days, do we? We just hear about, protest and foolishness in the White House. You believe this guy does not with his taxes? I'm out here struggling like a mug, and this dude is like $700. He got billions. He can't pay with $700. What? Oh man, it's just crazy in this world, isn't it? Just so crazy. What a great show we have today. Bear with me here while we get things in order. We're looking pretty good. Let's see here. Yes. Man, it's just really good morning. Hi. Yes. Let's get to these headlines. Get to the headlines of the day today. The first presidential debate takes place tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Joe Biden will step onto the Cleveland stage, holding leads in the polls, significant in the national surveys, closer to the battleground states, but facing questions about his turn in the spotlight, particularly considering Trump's withering attacks. And Trump, with only 35 days to change the course of the race, will have arguably his best chance to try to reframe the campaign election and not a referendum over his handling of a virus that has killed more people in America than any other nation. 1 million people worldwide, by the way. This will be the first moment in 4 years that someone will walk on the stage as co-equal to Trump and be able to hold him to account for the malfeasance he has shown in leading the country, said Steve Schmidt. He's a senior campaign aide for John McCain's 2008 Republican presidential bid and a frequent Trump critic. I don't know if you heard all that, but hey, I'm here. But I'm doing some great. I think my internet connection is messing up. Your audio is a little iffy, but we're gonna soldier on.
Sorry for all the technical stuff.
That's all right. We're gonna make it happen.
Yep, technology
What's
is good
going
and bad.
on? So, yeah,
good and bad.
Look, I was talking about the International Peace Day and sharing with the people that you participated in the Geneva Peace Talks and the Peace Day celebrations, commemorations with Kenya. And, peace is just a notion that we're not really dealing with right now. It seems like, maybe thought it would be good to have conversation this morning about, just peace, because we kind of need that positive vibration in the world. That's what I think. So, good morning there, Brother Meredith Beal. How are you today?
In their heart, even if they may not in their speech and behavior, but deep down inside, people really want to be happy. And we live in a time that has more challenge than ever in just surviving and also just getting along with one another. I mean, the world's getting smaller and smaller because of transportation and communication. And as they bring more people together, we need to increase our skills at interacting in a human way. So, it's a critical time for sure. Yeah, as you said, last week was September 21st is International Day of Peace every year. And it's an attempt to find some moment. I have a poem in my book called Just a Moment of Peace.
Regardless, let's make this happen.
Can you hear me? You there, Greg? Hello. Greg, I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing anybody. Greg, can you hear me? Hello. I don't hear anybody.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, boy. I had to go to a whole other room there, but we're doing all right. Okay.
Hey, well, that
So,
works.
good morning,
So
Meredith
where we leave
Beal.
off? Good morning, Greg Johnson. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. Man, okay, so here we are, doggone it. We're not hearing a lot about peace. We're not hearing, peace and love. We just out here, we just bad. And I found it really interesting that when you were sharing that you were participating in the International Day of Peace, chartered by the UN. I was like, damn, man, that's a deep notion that still, business goes on in, the United Nations, and it's certainly trying to promote and achieve peace. And I'm curious this morning if you could share with us what that was like. What did you all talk about as you participated in the Geneva Peace Talks? Now, when I hear Geneva Peace Talks, I'm thinking they're sitting down trying to stop war. Like in the past history, that's where they were negotiating. Vietnam and all the other conflicts the United States was involved in. What was it like for you? What did you talk about in that particular piece? And then we'll talk about Kenya.
Well, there's several things. So the International Day of Peace, as you said, it was commissioned by the United Nations as a marker where we could have at least one day where we could all come together and at least think about it for a minute. Every day there's new challenges. So as you said, during the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they were discussing how to stop war. Yes, we have a number of wars going on right now, but now it's far more complex. Economics and warfare in economics is also going on, or economics as warfare. Mm-hmm. So you have the struggle for resources, you have struggle for control, now, and then put on top of that, we have all environmental challenges that bring everything to a higher level of intensity and complexity. So in the midst of all that, they're talking about all kinds of things. And there's all kinds of subcommittees dealing with the ocean, dealing with the skies, dealing with small arms, dealing with human trafficking. All of those things are elements related to peace. So how I got involved in the first place, the first International Day of Peace activity I went to was several years ago. And one of my colleagues at the African Media Initiative was on the agenda to speak about media in relating to peace. So how the African media community can promote dialogue and conflict resolution, those type of things. So my colleague, the night before, called me and said that, hey, I have a family issue, I can't make it. Can you take my place? And here's my notes on what I was going to say. So when I got there that day, standing at the entrance was Father Herman Mann of the Catholic Church. And he asked me, he said, are you the guy that did the lecture on Buddhism at the University of Nairobi? I said, yes, that was me. And he said, I really enjoyed that. Would you like to give the invocation today? So I started, with a Buddhist prayer, followed by the Muslims, the Sikhs, the Hindus, 18 different spiritual traditions afterwards. And it was an incredible experience because of the diversity in the room, all the points of view that were different, but with the one same common intention that, given where we are, what can we do to bring the world to peace? Now, a compatible event is also called Interfaith Harmony Week, where we're looking at the same thing, religious harmony. One of the hats I wear, in addition to being Senior Technology Advisor for the African Media Initiative, umbrella organization of media owners in Africa, I'm also the Media and Technology Advisor for United Religions Initiative Africa, which is the largest umbrella organization of African religions, spiritual traditions, and interfaith groups. And the purpose of the initiative is to promote enduring daily interfaith cooperation to end religiously motivated violence and to create cultures of peace, justice, and healing for the earth and all living beings. So in that role now, it's giving me more access and exposure to those people who are doing work in that arena, the peace workers. So last year was the first time that interfaith communities were invited to participate in the United Nations Environment Assembly. And the objective was to mobilize interfaith communities in environmental action. One example, there's an organization of preachers and imams in Kenya, for example. What they got together and decided to do was every time they would do a wedding or a funeral, they would do a tree planting. So if you think about it, if every church in the world, every time they did a wedding or a funeral, planted a tree, what kind of impact that would have. So we need environmental peace, that is, to wage peace with the environment. We must transform humanity's violent behavior towards the environment, which takes many forms, from our disrespectful treatment of rainforests to using the ocean, lakes, and rivers as trash dumps. There soon will be, if not already, more plastic in the ocean than fish. If we continue this reckless behavior, we will see far more devastating manifestations than COVID-19.
Wow.
Our interaction with the environment, when it's unwise, we're going to have negative repercussions from that. So,
it's interesting you bring that up. I feel like, a great part of me does feel like the earth is fighting back. I mean, we got fires, we got earthquakes, we got, all kinds of things are happening. The doggone Amazon forest is being pillaged and on fire. I mean, it's just all over the world. There's these natural phenomenons, and I just think that the world is revolting against our mistreatment of her. So,
I know, I totally agree. I mean, some time ago, I wrote something that asked the question, I wonder if planet Earth realizes it's infested with an organism called human beings that pose a threat to everything living, and a threat to the Earth itself. And if it does realize that, is it taking measures? Just the same way that if you have an itch or something, you scratch it. And if the scratching's not enough, then you find some salve or something more potent to put on it. So I think that's part of it. Last year when I was attending, I was a delegate representing United Religions Initiative Africa. I was a delegate at the UN Environment last year. And you may recall the Ethiopian airline crash, which killed 157 people, including 35 who were headed for Nairobi for the assembly. One of those killed was a man named Darcy Belanger of the Parvati organization, a major advocate for the MAPS Treaty, the MAPS Treaty is it's an acronym for the Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary. And that's an attempt to make the Arctic Ocean region off limits for commercial development, military exploration, etc. And right now, there are sonic tests going on in the Arctic where every 2 or 3 minutes, there's a blast more potent than a jet taking off. So every 2 or 3 minutes, round the clock. So who knows what the repercussions are of that. And then when you hear like our president promoting breaking up the ice to make us, to open up for shipping and tourism, etc. Now, it's never been a problem before. I mean, the Arctic is the Earth's refrigerator. It's never been an issue before because the ice was just too thick to deal with. But because of global warming over time, the ice is getting thinner and thinner. And then when it got thin enough, commercial exploitation and our increasing capacity to manipulate the environment. So now that the ice is thinner, now we're sending in ice-breaking ships and stuff. So how this whole treaty thing got started was there's a recording artist named Parvati. I believe she's Canadian. But she was on a world tour and kept having this recurring dream about whales. Mm. And in the dream, she was under the ocean. It was this compelling feeling she had that the whales were in trouble. And so she wanted to stop her tour and go to the region and see what's going on. Her tour manager was like, "Hey, why don't you wait till the end of the tour?" "No, I have to do it now." Mm. So she went there and encountered the Inuit, the indigenous people of the area. Mm. And they said, "Oh, you must be the one coming to save us. The whales told us you were coming." So that changed her whole everything. And she created this organization and this attempt to push this treaty through. This will be the first treaty that didn't originate inside one of those bodies. These are regular people who come together to say, "Hey, stop this before it's too late." Mm-hmm. And so because Darcy was the main advocate and he wasn't there, I had spoken to him on like the Friday before, and he was getting ready to get on the plane, and we were going to talk on Sunday again, and then the UN session was going to start on Monday. And then I didn't hear from him on Sunday, but I didn't think anything of it. I thought, okay, maybe he hadn't gotten the communication straight, and I was appreciating getting to sleep the rest of the day anyway. But the next day when I got to the UN, he wasn't there, and after a couple hours, I called his office, and they said, "Well, we haven't heard from him, and we're afraid he was supposed to be on that plane, and we haven't heard from him." And then not long afterwards, it was confirmed. So it was a whole chilling vibe went across the whole everything. I mean, really chilling. But he had all these appointments set up with these ministers of the environment to push this treaty. So the role I played was, now the only expert was the woman who wrote the treaty, who was in Canada. So I would go to each of these meetings that she had set up and take the phone in, and then she, Canadian time, be 2 in the morning, and then I'm sitting in front of the Australian ambassador to the UN, and we have a WhatsApp call or a Skype call where she's explaining the treaty and they're asking questions. So basically, I was Darcy. I was carrying Darcy's function, and the woman who wrote the treaty. So she soldiered up, and every hours upon hours, she get a little bit of sleep, and she come back on and talk with the next person. So it was a tremendous effort that she and the other Parvati organization put in, but to raise the effort of how important this is. Now, one of the topics I touched on last week in the International Day of Peace activities was the threats to peace in Africa, and in particular, I call for broadening the discussion on the growing foreign military presence in Africa, especially in light of China's plan to build military installations in 4 African nations. They announced plans to build some sort of facility in Kenya, Tanzania, Seychelles, and maybe Zambia. Now, already the United States headquarters in Africa for their military presence is called AFRICOM, and it's in Djibouti. So a year or so ago, China builds a bigger base than them right down the street from theirs in Djibouti. Matter of fact, half of the country is foreign military stuff.
Wow.
And the people of Djibouti are an underclass supporting the presence of all these foreign military people.
Sure, because they're pouring into their economy too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we at the African Media Initiative are calling for a consultative dialogue on this topic. And we're also calling for the African Union to, I'm sure they have a policy, but we need to look at limits. And are these military installations, whose interests are they in? On whose behalf are they being built? And is this the exchange for aid? So what they're talking about in these activities is multifaceted because the world is so complex, as you were saying. But back to your point about is the earth revolting? And we should be more humble. I mean, if all of the animals and all of the insects in the world turned against us, game over.
Yeah. Real talk.
Game over.
Okay, so let me just ask you this question. So now, when you were in Geneva, you were speaking more of the climate. Is that what I'm understanding? And then, first of all, that was a fascinating life experience, though, to be kind of, being the surrogate of your colleague there that passed away on the airliner thing. I mean, what a great life experience. And I think, you just were placed there at the right time and, the right place, right time in order to carry on that great work. So that just means that it was just in order for that work to still move forward no matter what. What a great life experience.
Yeah, that took place in Nairobi. That was at the UN General Assembly. The Geneva talks this year were virtual, like everything had to be virtual. And what I was talking about was more on the part of how do we engage youth? We need to have peace education in the curriculum in every school around the world. We have to start acculturating, in terms of building a culture of peace, it has to start from the bottom. So we have to make sure that everybody coming up has a basic set of understanding. Here's what it means to be human. Here's what it means to be a responsible citizen of planet Earth. A Buddhist prophet named Nichiren Daishonin wrote a document called the Rishoin Kokuran on securing the peace of the land. And he talked about the relationship between human behavior and natural disaster and human calamity. And he also talked about the order that these things come in. And depending upon what actions the human beings take, which determines the order of the natural disasters. And it's a fascinating document, but he says if you care anything about your own personal security, you should first of all pray for the peace of the land.
Yes.
So we make ethical choices every day about what we purchase and who from.
Right.
Does what we buy to us, is it available to us at the expense of others? Child labor, unfair labor practices, environmentally unsound practices, human trafficking, all these things, we have just with our little $1 or $2, whatever we do day to day, we have an opportunity to impact. If we stop supporting things which are escalating the destruction of the environment, but it takes an awareness. What are those things? Who are those people? What companies? I mean, Monsanto is a devil on the planet.
Yes.
Their drive to take away the ability of farmers to reuse seeds is a function of the devil.
Yes.
And so we have to broaden that awareness globally, because most regular folks are too busy trying to keep up. They make it so everybody in the house has to work in order to sustain a family.
Right.
Nobody has time to study anything, much less protest anything, unless it just gets overboard and it's just too much and we can't stand it and we hit the streets.
Right.
But change can happen before. So we address our own little thing, all in the plastic in the stream when we're walking in the park.
Because we're addicted to convenience. I mean, it's like
absolutely, we're spoiled.
throw stuff away and forget about it.
When I went to one of the forests in Kenya, they don't allow. Well, matter of fact, plastic is against the law in Kenya.
Oh,
single-use plastic. So if you come in your suitcase and you stop in the airport and you buy all these stuff and you got this bag.
Yeah.
When you get to the airport, they're throwing all that shit in the trash.
Oh wow.
And one significant thing at the end of the last year's UN Environment Assembly, there was a resolution, and part of it addressed eliminating like the plastic bottles for water, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. Everybody signed it except the United States. And the United States representative there said, well, in spirit, we agree, but we cannot sign this document because of X, Y, Z. And it was around the plastic and how aggressive the rest of the world is at mitigating that. So once again, the United States, not only had we, dropped out of the Paris Peace Talk, Paris climate change talks, and all these things that the United States is drawing away from. And then the rest of the world is agreeing that, hey, this is a problem and here's how we should address it. But the United States says, no, it's not in our best interest.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too. I mean, when he pulled out of the climate change treaty, that was really, really something. So, and then World Health Organization. So all of these international bodies that are for the good of the people, it's like the United States has just pulled out of it, since the administration of Donald Trump. And so what does that really say about the United States?
It started on day 2.
Yeah.
But no, so last week or so,
yeah.
The president was on Fox News. Yeah. And the Fox commentator asked him, why is the United States leading the world in deaths from COVID? And the president said, we're not. Straight out lied. So trying to cast darkness where there's light is a function of devil.
Yes.
Anybody engaged in that activity, promoting that activity, defending that activity is doing devil work.
Yes, brother.
Now, that started on day 2, when all of a sudden, the website for the Environmental Protection Agency, he had them take down some stuff that was true, but it didn't fit their narrative on what the coal industry wanted to hear. So they started pulling stuff down. And then some loyal employees, long-standing employees who know the mission of the EPA started screaming to the point where they set up an alternative Twitter site it's called Alt-EPA, Alt-EPA, so that they could communicate what was going on. And it was devilish in a number of reasons, because one, all of that information didn't belong to the United States in the first place. We were custodians. So many scientific organizations, research organizations had contributed to this body of knowledge that humanity has about this issue. So somebody trying to cover up the body of knowledge that we have is another instance of trying to cast darkness where there's light. So fortunately, there's a global organization called Hacks and Hackers. When I got to Kenya in 2011, the organization globally was about 100,000. So Hacks and Hackers. Hacks, in the old days, journalists used to be called hacks. So we created this collection of the noble hackers, and then the hacks, the journalists. So the journalists and good guy hackers got together to create tools like, how do you track the money in a corruption investigative research project? So all of these, so there's all these good guy hackers around the world who are doing things to keep the information safe. Here's another example. There's somebody at every airport in the world who writes down the tail number of every plane that takes off. and that's in a database. And so there's one example where some journalist used this information, and he tracked the use of the president's plane. And then he found here's X number of incidents in which the president's plane was one place and the president was somewhere else. And it turned out that the wife was using it to go shopping in Paris and stuff like that.
My.
So economic development is ahead of everything else in the planet's ability to support us. So I call again, as I did 25 years ago, I wrote an editorial called Value Change for Global Survival. And that was in 1990. So I went to Kyoto, Japan. So that you've heard of the Kyoto Accord. So going back to when we started, Brazil was the first one. Then they had, I think Kyoto was either second or third. So I went to the Kyoto Accord. And in the process, it was something called a World Forum. So again, a bunch of people from the education community, from the culture, from entertainment, from business, from all over, coming together to look at what can we do to protect our environment and slow down the negative trend that we're on. And so right after that is when I wrote this article saying that, okay, if we need to change our value system. So if at the time, you know, the American dream was 2 cars in every garage, if everybody in the world had 2 cars, and the environment, our atmosphere would be uninhabitable quickly. So we need to change what our value system is. And I think, as you mentioned, this COVID-19 pandemic made us relook at what's important. You know, we got to see the folly of some of our pursuits. So now it's an opportunity for us to look closer at, you know, what is important to me, what is valuable to me, what is worth spending my time and money on. So I think that's where we need to get back to, value change for global survival.
Let me ask you this. So now, what was it like when you were with the grandson of Emperor Haile Selassie?
It was fascinating, and I have one regret in that we didn't record it. You know, so I was there again this was for the African Union Assembly in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, same year, 2019. So it was actually a month before the UN Environment Assembly. And so Ambassador Musi, who is the global envoy of United Religions Initiative, told His Majesty Prince Ermias told him that I was here, and he really should, you would really enjoy meeting this guy. So he came over to my hotel and we spoke about 2 hours, fascinating conversation about all kinds of stuff. And then near the end, I was like, man, we should have been recording this. We have to do this again, where we capture what we talked about. We talked about history, his father, you know, royal life, the famine, war, you know, all kinds of stuff. And then where are we going today? And while he was in my hotel room, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia called him and wanted to come in, you know, to see what role can the royals play in moving forward. Now, around this time, remember when the new Prime Minister came in, Abe came in, it was just a whole refreshing change. You know, they stopped the war with Eritrea, which had been going on for 20 years. Told the soldiers, leave your guns here and just come on back home. They let a bunch of dissidents out of prison. They invited the folks in exile. I mean, it was really a broad-ranging effort to, okay, here's who we are. Here's all our troubles and here's all our good stuff. How can we move forward? So, so actually I had planned earlier this year, we were going to do an event in LA and Prince Ermias was going to come speak at that event. So obviously we're in regroup mode now. But yeah, so
a good way to describe it.
Yes. The earth had been put on pause.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, incredible, man. What do you think is going to happen here in the next couple of months here? Do you think we'll ever get back to, normal, or will we
No,
be able to?
there's no such thing as normal. And
Mhm,
going back to normal is the wrong way to go.
mhm,
Normal was what was wrong in the first place.
mhm.
So
It's
we
a
have
new
to have
paradigm.
a new
Yeah,
reality, take into account everything we've learned in the last 8 months or
yeah.
so.
Mhm.
It's a new day, and we have to
New day.
make a change.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to end with a poem, if I can.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we still have
Uh,
time too. So
we
go
still
ahead,
have
keep
time. Okay,
going.
then,
Yeah,
then,
yeah, yeah.
then keep talking.
Go, go ahead. I want to hear the kick the
Okay.
lyrics, there, homie.
Yeah, this is from my book, Victory Every Day, which is a collection of photographs from my travels around the world, set to poetry and song lyrics and prose and what have you. This poem is called A Spark of Inspiration, which is what we need right now.
Yes, yes.
All it takes is a spark of inspiration to reveal the brilliance of potential. Just a twinkle of an idea can open the door to profound revelation, and just a small spark can ignite a ring of fire. So too can an impulse from a tiny seed of thought brighten the whole planet. A notion from a dream to be better can awaken a resolve to shine, which in turn spurs an inkling of insight that blossoms into an awesome awakening, a rich revelation. Just a gleam of light can be magnified into a shower of illumination if there is inspiration. Thank you.
Wow, that was beautiful. That hey, made my day. Watch out now. I'm getting ready to go be out there. I'm inspired. That's really, really awesome, man. I appreciate your lyricism. I mean, that's about third or fourth poem you shared with me here. My goodness, that was great. Now, let me ask you, when you are, intersecting with your folks and from these different regions of the continent of Africa, what is the general vibe as they watch the United States go through its changes? What are you hearing on the continent about these United States?
It's disturbing. They're laughing at us. If, the people ask me, what's wrong with you guys? I was like, I don't have an answer. I really don't have an answer. And even back when Trump was elected, the vice president of one country came up to me and said, you guys have elected an adolescent to office. That's like putting a family gun in the hands of a teenager, which was a striking comment. And I've heard, and when I'm at the UN, I hear them talking to each other. So like, especially after the US UN rep punked out and wouldn't sign the resolution.
Yeah.
You should hear everybody, every country, right after he finished. Norway got up and slammed them. Who was next? 4 or 5 countries, right after he finished, they blew at him with accurate assessment. So we look stupid all over the world. And it day by day, it got worse and worse. And sometimes it's fear, like a president of another country told me, now we're going to have to make more overtures to China and Russia and Turkey because we can't trust the United States. That's the biggest part. Our allies, we've attacked our allies. We've cozied to enemies. The lack of predictability and the lack of consistency has taken its toll, and the United States is no longer the world leader in moral influence.
Right.
By any means. And we also, there was a legislation sometime last year called the BUILD Act, B-U-I-L-D. And basically it's an attempt to address the increasing disparity between China's growing influence in Africa and the US's dwindling influence in Africa. So they have all these new programs designed to stimulate that, and we'll see what happens with that. But the reality is the United States is not leading the way. And if you look at even the response to COVID, I remember when COVID first started, the president of Ghana came out and he said, we know how to bring an economy back to life. What we don't know how to bring back to life is human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So forget the economy. They started with the healthcare workers. They gave them 50% bonus off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Go protect them and their families. So PPEs for them and their families. Then they moved to the food chain, protect the food workers. They did it in a very methodical manner. So, which is why, like in Kenya, a country of 40 million people, and they had maybe 800 deaths.
Mm.
And it's probably 800 deaths in one neighborhood in the U.S. So, also, there's the Corporate Council for Africa sponsored a week-long leadership symposium back in May, where they were looking at COVID's impact on Africa financially, in the health community, and culturally, and just really impressed with how Morocco's approached it, how Senegal approached it. So best practices. What we're not doing is looking at global best practices.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to go it on our own when here's information on what works and what doesn't work. As in any industry, best practices is how you get forward. So we're not using, global best practices.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting. It's just really clear to me that, this administration doesn't care about, the climate or just interacting with other countries in a civil manner. It's very, like you were saying, it's the work of the devil is going on out here with the United States. And I just really feel like we are lacking one symbolic gesture that really articulates all of this is how at the White House, they've removed all of the roses out of the rose garden. And now it's just this, plain, very military, industrial, without life, presentation. And for me, that symbolizes almost everything that we've been talking about today, from the climate to the political leanings, the dealings of this country with international communities. I mean, that's the example. They just want to be soulless.
No, it's a reflection of the people that are there.
Yeah.
Another exciting thing that I want to commend Ethiopia on is during the COVID crisis, almost all the airlines shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So the president of Ethiopia was on one of these briefings. President of Ethiopia Airlines was on one of the briefings. And he said, we didn't fire anybody. We didn't lay anybody off. They realized quickly that passenger traffic was non-existent. So they focused on cargo. And to the point where the other airlines that weren't flying, they wound up getting their cargo business. So they had to repurpose some of the passenger planes to be cargo planes. And they're going to stay like that even after post-COVID. But they flew 80% of the world's medical supplies during that period.
Wow.
They took stuff all over Africa. Ethiopian Airlines stepped up. And
I read an article recently about how they've been able to kind of pivot and be a ready source of resource, to the global good. That's really great, really great. Now, from your perspective, generally speaking, are the countries on the continent, are they surviving and doing well? Because sometimes, depending on which publication you read, some publications say, "Oh, Africa is really failing and suffering," and others are saying, "Hey, they're really doing a great job in abating this COVID pandemic."
Well, they are doing a great job. Everywhere there's been different things. Again, people are people, and you have differences. So you have good stuff in each country. You have good stuff and bad stuff. In Kenya, you had people stepping up. Then you had other people trying to gain people. So the con man collection. You had people trying to steal PPEs or doing all kinds of other things, but for the most part, people were rallying together to see how they could help. And if you, 1 second, I'm going to see. But overall, I think it was, I believe Algeria, there were several North African countries and South Africa had significantly more cases than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, you know, when Kenya had 7 or 8, South Africa had 1,500, that type of thing. So those 4 countries were hit hard, but you know, they came back, and then I think in one of them might have been a second wave. But 1 second, I was trying to see. I had some notes on the last time I looked at what the numbers were. I don't see it, but for the most part, there were 2 blocks. Those 5 or 6 countries that had heavy interaction in the beginning, and then the rest. Then the rest. Now, when I left Kenya, Ethiopia and Kenya's numbers were about the same. Now Ethiopia is creeping up at a pace faster than Kenya. And part of it maybe with some of the SS on there. So there's a factor. I mean, tell people to social distance. If there's 10 people living in a house, social distancing means somebody got to leave, and that might not be possible. So you have, you know, so the solutions are not one size fits all, and what worked in some places didn't work in other places. In Kenya, even yesterday, the president made a new announcement. So when I left, the curfew was like 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. And now they pushed that back to 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. And then as of a couple of days ago, now the restaurants that were open can sell liquor when they couldn't before. And they've extended the curfew for another 60 days. School closed indefinitely. So they're not taking any chances with the children. Churches, I think they upped the number to 200, weddings and funerals, you know, so they're approaching it in a cautious manner. So overall, I've been impressed, and especially the week after I heard maybe 8 or 9 presidents and ministers of health and ministers of finance. Oh, when the most, one of the most encouraging things to me during this time period was, okay, when the United States gave out a stimulus package, so it, you know, so it basically just created a whole bunch of money out of air. There's nothing to back it up to create liquidity. So they just printed up some money and gave it to people. So now African countries, in looking at mechanisms to increase the liquidity, some of them say, okay, well, we're not going to pay the interest on the national debt. So together there was pressure on European and, you know, other debt holders. There's no odious debt in the first place, so we really shouldn't be paying it. But how we're in liquidity, not paying you, and give that money to the people. So if you can print up money, because you have a Federal Reserve, you can print up money with nothing to base it, you know. So this is how we're going to approach it. So, you know.
Wow. All right. Now, you know, I mean, I think that now more than ever, it's important for us as a people, the African American community, to, you know, think global, think more global. And with that comes, you know, information. It certainly can tag in with Coffee Conversations with Greg Day, and we're a little small fish, you know, sharing information from a global perspective. And I know that you just recently came on to a post that will allow you to share your perspectives of the continent. Tell us a little bit about your new endeavor with the magazine and your new global journalism aspiration.
Yes, as my buddy Jonathan said, hey, you're back in the writing business again. Hollywood Weekly magazine approached me about getting distribution on the continent. And in the process of that discussion, I was like, hey, why don't you add something relevant in the publication? So we agreed to create an Africa section in Hollywood Weekly, and as well an innovation section, innovation/technology. And it's not reviews on new gadgets. It's people doing cool stuff, disruptive business models, the movements, creative movements that people need to know about. So that section is being edited by my friend James Hines, who was a long time. I've known him 30 years. Digital guru like myself. He's Silicon Valley, heavy in the gaming world and virtual reality. So the story that he did in the issue, which will be on the streets October 1st, by the way, and it's be in every Target store in America, the Barnes and Nobles, newsstands across the country and in 14 countries. He did a story about a woman named Kashmir Patterson, who's a genius, and in a bunch of different realms. So she's all over the place and a Renaissance person like us. And she developed some digital collectible sneakers. Digital sneakers, meaning it's intellectual property. It's not sneakers you wear. She has a collection of sneakers that you can buy $300-400, and maybe somebody will pay her for their character in a video game to wear her shoes. So it's a whole new category of wealth.
Wait. Okay, let me just make sure I got you.
Yeah,
I got
you
this.
gotta wrap your head around it. This is a whole another level that's been going on, and there's a whole community of sneakerheads.
All right, okay, I get that. I know they trade the sneakers, and I get it. Okay, so
but it's like trading baseball cards or something that appreciate in value over time.
So I could have my own line of sneakers in the digital world.
Absolutely.
And then some gaming company could pay me for use of my sneakers in the digital world.
Right. Now, and it's being traded on the blockchain.
It's being traded on blockchain. Oh, yes. Wow.
So one example is somebody might have used, say, made a purchase of what? Are you still there? Hello. Oh, I think we went off because it's over time.
Greetings.
I don't know if anybody can hear me. I'm waiting to see if Greg comes back. How's your day going if you can hear me?
Hello. Man, guys, we apologize for just our little technical difficulties today. I just think, you know what, that's probably a show we need to do about how our devices are tripping in this day and time of COVID lockdown. I actually think, there's some truth to the whole, essence of 5G. Something is happening out there while we're on quarantine.
I'm back.
Sure. All right. Yeah. But our internet just disappeared, and I don't know. I was just saying, I think, we should probably just have a show about, the technical, our digital devices going haywire in this time. I think they're out there, they're doing something. Whatever it is, there's a disruptive stuff, because every now and again your phone goes crazy. This happens, man. This is really frustrating.
Even yesterday, my Outlook had a major breakdown. Outlook, whoever had Outlook got trouble yesterday.
Wow.
So where did we leave off?
Okay, so we were talking about the digital sneakers.
Okay, yes. So she's in addition to that, she's started a venture capital fund to support startups. So I'm amazed at the fact that these young people have come up with a whole new arena of the ability to create wealth.
Yeah.
And one example is you might make a purchase, sneakers might cost you $20, but then over time you wind up selling them for $2,500. That's one actual example of how this works. So that community will only get bigger and bigger. So the young people now who are starting to, so if they start playing around creating stuff in this arena, it's a tremendous opportunity. What was the other point? I lost it. So Hollywood Weekly.
I'm just trying to wrap my brain around this thing. That's pretty fascinating. And then, what determines how, the value of your digital sneakers?
Well, it's like, branding and it's art too. Yeah. So what's the game around art? Is it Van Gogh or is it,
Right. Yeah.
But again, the fact that there's this underlayer that, the gaming community, revenue from gaming is bigger than film, television, and music combined. Yes. Gaming revenue is bigger than all other entertainment. And now, if you think about it, since COVID was out, if I was a movie star with a whole bunch of money, and I'm not shooting right now, I go make the video game and put me in it. And then
so Denzel Washington in a video game.
Yes, and then put him. He appears in a bunch of video games.
Right.
All I'm saying is that it'll be a while before you see actors kissing on TV again.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, so it'll be a while. So production, though it shut down in TV film and recording music recording to some degree, it never stopped in the gaming world.
Right.
So people were still in production, making stuff and still releasing stuff. Now, maybe the releases might have been paused based on, timing of branding and all that. But they're still making stuff because it's stuff you can do in your home by yourself, or you can collaborate with other folks at home.
Right. So I see opportunity, even though it's crazy in the macro, for us in the hood, there's opportunity, and if you have the talent and all that, you have the tools now that you can, right at your fingertips, you could make some decent content and put it out there and generate, significant revenue. Digital sneakers.
In chaos, there's opportunity.
Yes, sir.
And there's a whole bunch of chaos right now. So there's opportunity. Even in something like, okay, everybody's been jumping on Zoom and WebEx and you know, all the other things, but people aren't doing it well. So even helping people understand how to do a virtual conference is something that some informed young person can help a business person with.
Right.
So there's lots of opportunity in this time period for sure. But back to Hollywood Weekly. So the intention for me is to enhance the bridge that we've been building, the African-American diaspora in connection to Africa. But it also gives me an opportunity to highlight talent, cultural elements that we should be exposed to. So that's my intention, to look at a different country every issue, basically. And you know, who's the best fashion designer in Ghana? You know, all these types of things.
And here in the United States, we need to know, because, you know, it always hurts me to know that a lot of our brothers and sisters, African Americans, we got the wrong idea of the continent. We drank the Kool-Aid. We think that it's just nothing but famine and craziness going on over there, when in fact there's very cosmopolitan, trend-setting, just society there. I mean, you know, all over.
There's a reason why European royalty go to Africa for holiday.
Right.
Yeah, and it ain't just the animals.
That's right. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there are malls in South Africa that put Beverly Hills to shame.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Right.
You've been there. You've been to Stanton.
Yes.
You know? So,
wow. Yeah. All right, Meredith Beal, man, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you, my brother. Always.
And you know what we're gonna do is I'm gonna edit this up and repurpose it and put it out there. So that we had a few technical difficulties. We think that they try to stop us because we try to support climate change and promote peace. We can't be stopped. This is a mission bigger than all of us.
I got 250,000 web robots around the world. We can't stop us getting our word out.
Come on now, let's get it.
All right, brother. Stay safe. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yes, sir. Hey, everybody, look, love one another. Love one another. Love one another. Peace and blessings.